Hey, it's Kyle here. It's time for my favorite annual traditions I do on my channel, and that is look back at my favorite books I read in the previous year. In this video, I'll be highlighting my 5 favorite nonfiction books that I read in 2024. To make clear, I'm not saying these books were published in 24. In fact, a few of these are actually much older. I just happened to read them for the first time in 2024. So I'll give you kind of a basic summary of each of these books, but if you would like to learn more, I've done reviews for all these books on my channel, so you can search for my more detailed reviews in my previous videos. That way, let's take a look back at my 5 favorite nonfiction books that I read in 2024. So number 5, we have Mythos by Stephen Fry. This book examines the myths of ancient Greece. I think most people are all familiar with, the basics of the ancient Greek gods. I think we all have heard of Zeus before. We've probably all seen various movies, TV shows, read books where the Greek gods are characters and stuff like that. But I think for most of us, we don't really know a whole lot of the detailed breakdown of the gods and what the ancient Greeks actually believed, the myths behind them, the stories behind them. The Greeks really, a lot of their culture revolved around him. As we all know, ancient Greek culture has had such a huge impact on Western culture in the modern world that these myths have had a huge impact on all aspects of our culture. It really impacts how storytelling works in our modern world. So a lot of standard character tropes that we're used to in movies, TV shows, and books, a lot of these get their basis in ancient Greek myths. So if you've ever been interested in learning more about the ancient Greek gods and the myths behind them and all the elaborate stories, and you'd like to learn more, Mythos is a very good book. It's written in a very funny way. It's very entertaining. Stephen Fry is a very talented author of making things very interesting that otherwise could come across as very dry, maybe boring. This book is by no means boring. It is very entertaining, very funny, and you will learn a lot. So number 4 is The Barcelona Complex by Simon Kuper. This book explores the history of one of the most famous football/soccer clubs in the world, Barcelona. And specifically, it really looks at the period of time when Messi was the main player there and how he shaped the team both for the positive and the negative. I'm more of a casual soccer fan or football fan, depending on what part of the world you're from. I live near Atlanta, and I was always a very, very casual soccer fan, mainly because I didn't have a local team to root for. But a few years back, Atlanta finally got an MLS team, Atlanta United, and it really got me much more into soccer. That now I had a team I could root for very much in a very passionate way, rooting for my favorite local team and stuff like that. So I got interested in learning more about the history of soccer and stuff like that. And so I thought I'd check this book out. I'm really glad I did. I think I felt like I learned a lot about tactics, the history of tactics in soccer, the importance of Barcelona and the history of the world game, and why Messi is such an important player and how he's impacted how soccer/football is played to this day. So if you're a soccer fan/football fan and maybe you'd like to learn a little bit more about history, tactics, and one of the most famous clubs in the world and perhaps the best player in the history of the world, The Barcelona Complex is a very interesting book, and I would recommend it. If you're not really into soccer or football, this book is probably not for you. But if you are, I think this is a book you'll find very, very interesting. My 3rd favorite nonfiction book that I read in 2024 is Emperor of Rome by Mary Beard. This book, it kind of explores the history of the Roman Empire, specifically the first half of the Roman Empire when it was really at its peak, through the examination of certain specific emperors that ruled during this time period. And basically the author's premise, which I kind of agree with, that you can learn a lot about the empire by just examining these specific emperors, how they ruled, how they functioned, what they were like, what they were perceived by the Roman population as, how the government worked. From these emperors, you can kind of see how the empire was changing over the course of the first half of its history, and you can begin to see the seeds of its downfall. So if you're interested in the history of the Roman Empire, I think this is a book you'll find very interesting. I always felt like, I know a lot about Rome, I know a lot of the emperors of Rome. I learned a lot of this book. Mary Beard is an extremely talented nonfiction writer, and is very skilled at unveiling new info that I think most people don't really know, but do it in a way that's entertaining and a fun read and not too overwhelming. She's figured out a way to kind of open up this important history to a more casual reader and not just like a professor reading in a dusty library in a college somewhere. Very fascinating examination of the Roman Empire through the lens of certain emperors. I would highly recommend this book. My second favorite nonfiction book that I read in 2024 is The Wolf Age by Skeie, and this book examines the Vikings, and specifically the Vikings' interaction with England, and basically the time period when the Vikings began to try to conquer England and actually kind of incorporate it into a Viking kingdom that would include Denmark, Norway, and other parts of Scandinavia. This is a period really in the Viking history where they went from just being raiders to trying to establish their own kingdom and empire and really establish themselves as a major power in Europe, not just a group of raiders who stole from the major powers in Europe. It's very fascinating. I think it's a period of Viking history that we don't really think about a lot. I think most people kind of more think of the Viking raiders, like them showing up at a coastal village and storming the local town and stealing all the gold, maybe kidnapping people, pillaging and stuff like that. I think a lot of times we don't really think about them actually setting up shop in an area for the long term, trying to settle, trying to conquer, trying to incorporate a region into their territory, and establishing Viking power forever in certain parts of Europe. I really enjoyed the author's viewpoint because the author is Scandinavian. So many times, you know, if you're in America, usually you're reading history books from authors in the United States and England, and you're getting that viewpoint. Getting a viewpoint from a respected historian in Scandinavia about the Vikings, it kind of opens up even a different perspective of the Vikings that you typically don't really get. I really found this book very fascinating. I really enjoyed it, and I hope to read another book by this author in the future. And my favorite nonfiction book that I read in 2024 is The Path Between the Seas, The Creation of the Panama Canal by David McCullough. So I knew a decent amount about the creation of the Panama Canal, the history of it, various failed attempts before the successful effort to build the canal, what it was like when it was being built, and how it impacted the world after it opened. But like I said, I kind of knew the general level stuff, not the really nitty-gritty details about how the canal was built, the failed efforts before and why it failed, the various individuals involved in the failed efforts, the various individuals involved in the successful effort to build the canal, and really how it did change the modern world when it finally opened. The Panama Canal is one of the biggest things that's ever happened to humanity. I think now we just kind of take it for granted, but it completely reshaped the world. And how it was built is one of the most amazing feats of engineering that humanity's ever accomplished. It is utterly fascinating that it happened. And really, I actually want to take a trip to Panama at some point just to see the canal. Because when you read this book, the amount of work that went into building this is staggering. So I really would love to see it in person. This book is so fascinating. David McCullough is a very talented author. I've enjoyed a lot of his works in the past. I plan on reading several of his other books that I haven't got around to yet. But I would highly recommend this book to anybody that has even just a casual interest in history. I think even people that are not interested in history would be blown away by reading this book, because the Panama Canal is almost one of those things that doesn't seem real, like humanity could actually accomplish this. It is absolutely staggering what went into the building of this canal and what people did to make it possible. So The Path Between the Seas, The Creation of the Panama Canal is my favorite nonfiction book that I read in 2024. So those are my 5 favorite nonfiction books that I read in 2024. Let me know in the comment section below which of those 5 sounds the most interesting to you, and what was your favorite nonfiction book that you read in 2024? I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, all these books have been reviewed on my channel in the past, so be sure to check out those videos if you'd like to learn more. If you enjoyed this list, be sure to hit the like button, and stay tuned to my channel. I'll be doing other videos highlighting my 5 favorite fiction books and my 5 favorite Star Wars novels that I read in 2024. So thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time, and happy reading.